and change nature. You can't stop the wind from blowing. You can't stop water from flowing. And yet, last year, this treaty was placed in abeyance. There was no legal provision in the treaty to take any unilateral action, and yet this treaty was put in abeyance. And it wasn't put in abeyance because it was legally defective. It was put in abeyance, or so it is suggested, because it did not serve the politics of one country. So it was the politics that basically defined whether the water in times to come, the nature in times to come, shall continue to behave in the way it has been behaving over millennia. We've been talking all day about climate change, Excellency. Climate change means more compliance, not less. Climate change means more transparency, not less. Climate change means more data sharing, not less. And climate change means more early warning systems, not less. Climate change meant all of these things, not to use it as an excuse to suspend or unilaterally reinterpret or bypass a legally binding treaty. 11 days ago, a court of arbitration passed a judgment and demystified the design of hydroelectric power. And it clearly defined what was the maximum pondage that an upstream country can hold. It defined the design of even hydropower projects in terms of how much water can be retained. It affirmed real substantive limits on water control capabilities. However, ladies and gentlemen, let me break your heart. There's no legally binding multilateral framework that can compulsorily kind of lead this judgment into compliance. The rule-based regimes are collapsing. Multilateralism, ladies and gentlemen, is weakening. And there are new doctrines rising of unilateralism, defensive, offensive, or offensive, defensive, or preemptive strikes. I don't know what these are, but I can tell you that even water is getting weaponized. The one treaty case that I submitted to you is not the collapse of the treaty, it is the revelation. Treaty has been revealed, treaty has not collapsed. And let me submit to you that if these frameworks persist, it is not just about Pakistan. No downstream country in the world after this shall have water rights. No downstream, mark my words, once this precedent is set, no downstream country across the world would have water rights. And if this treaty doesn't hold, then all of the treaties of the world are not worth the weight of the paper on which they were printed. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me submit to you that we are 11 months from the 2026 US Water Conference. And I believe, we should not be talking about how we think and what we think. We should be talking about what we are going to do. For everything that matters, there's a global governance framework. For nuclear materials, there's non-proliferation treaty. For trade disagreements, there's World Trade Organization. Even for carbon, we now have Article 6. But for water, we have good faith voluntary frameworks. Pakistan would like to call upon this conference. Pakistan would like to call upon this conference to come up with binding international covenants for transborder water. Pakistan would like to request for compulsory third-party dispute resolution mechanisms between upstream and downstream countries. Pakistan would like to ask for political, economic and diplomatic consequences for violators. And Pakistan would like to assert meaningful protection for lower riparian countries. We don't believe we are, and we are not powerless. Sure, I'd conclude. So let me conclude. The woman who wakes up at dawn and walks 4 hours for 1 bucket of water is not looking forward to a conference outcome framework. The child who is dead or dying is not asking for another voluntary commitment. The farmer whose generations and generations have been devastated into poverty is not looking up to or forward to a declaration of principles. We need laws that hold. We need institutions that have the courage to enforce, and we want leaders who understand that water is a right, and this justice has to be delivered. And rights, ladies and gentlemen, require protection. And I believe we are all in this room together to afford that protection to the vulnerable. Thank you very much for your attention.